In the dead of night on June 9, 1912, something unspeakable happened in the quiet town of Villisca, Iowa. A family of 6, along with 2 young visitors, were brutally murdered in their sleep, bludgeoned to death with an axe. Over 110 years later, their killer's identity remains one of America's most chilling unsolved mysteries. Villisca was the epitome of small-town America, a peaceful community in southwestern Iowa with barely 2,500 residents. Everyone knew everyone, and violent crime was virtually unheard of. The Moore family epitomized this wholesome lifestyle. Josiah Moore, a successful businessman, his wife Sarah, a devoted church organizer, and their 4 children, 11-year-old Herman Montgomery, 10-year-old Mary Catherine, 7-year-old Arthur, and 5-year-old Paul. The night everything changed. June 9, 1912, started as a celebration. Sarah Moore had organized the annual Children's Day program at their Presbyterian church, a joyful evening that began around 8 p.m. The entire Moore family attended, never knowing it would be their last public appearance. When the service ended at 9:30 p.m., Catherine Moore made a fateful invitation. She asked 2 friends, 8-year-old Ina Mae Stillinger and her 12-year-old sister Lena Gertrude, to spend the night, as the girls were afraid to walk home in the dark. Josiah called to get permission, reaching their older sister Blanche, who agreed to relay the message to their parents. The group walked home together, arriving at the Moore residence between 9:45 and 10 p.m. It was the last time any of them would be seen alive. Mary Peckham, the Moose neighbor, was hanging laundry at 5 a.m. when she noticed something odd. No one was stirring at the Moore house. By 7 a.m., concerned that no one had emerged to do their morning chores, she approached the residence and knocked. When no one answered, she found the door locked, unusual for the typically welcoming family. After letting the Moose chickens out herself, Peckham called Josiah's brother Ross. Ross arrived, knocked, and shouted through the door, but received no response. All the window shades had been pulled down, preventing him from seeing inside. Using a spare key, he entered the home and made a horrifying discovery. In the guest bedroom, Ross found 2 small bodies covered by a sheet, blood splattered across the headboard. He immediately called for help, and Town Marshal Henry Hank Horton arrived at 8:30 a.m. to begin his investigation. What Horton found defied comprehension. An uneaten plate of food sat on the kitchen table next to a pot of bloody water. Every mirror and glass surface in the house had been covered with clothing the killer had found while rummaging through the family's belongings. The murder weapon, a bloodied axe, lay against the wall in the guest bedroom, partially cleaned, with a 4-pound slab of bacon wrapped in cloth beside it. The gruesome details. The scene painted a picture of methodical brutality. Axe marks scarred the bedroom ceilings, suggesting the killer had swung wildly in a frenzied state. Josiah and Sarah Moore bore the worst injuries, their heads struck 20 to 30 times each. Josiah's face was completely crushed from his upper jaw up, with blood, brain tissue, and skull fragments splattered across the headboard. Sarah was the only victim to show cuts from the axe's sharp edge. The others had been bludgeoned with the blunt end. Evidence suggested the killer returned to the parents' room twice to inflict additional damage after delivering the fatal blows. The positioning of the Stillinger sisters raised disturbing questions. 12-year-old Lena was found hanging partway out of the bed, her nightgown pulled above her waist. Her sister Ina lay facing her with an unusual body position. Though doctors determined there was no sexual assault, investigators suspected the killer had arranged the bodies for his viewing pleasure. Most haunting of all, the 4 more children appeared to have slept through their own murders, killed without ever waking up. 2 finished cigarettes in the attic suggested the killer had hidden there, waiting for the family to fall asleep. Some theorized he might have drugged their food to ensure they wouldn't wake during the attack. Tragically, Marshal Horton made a critical error. He mentioned the murders to townspeople while fetching the doctor. Word spread like wildfire through the small community. Within hours, over 100 curious residents had invaded the crime scene, potentially destroying crucial evidence as they gawked at the bodies and trampled through rooms. The peaceful community of Villisca was forever changed. Within days, every gun and door lock in town had been sold out. Fear gripped the residents as they wondered, was the killer still among them? The investigation revealed a chilling pattern. Similar axe murders had occurred along the Southern Pacific Railroad route. Entire families bludgeoned to death, mirrors covered, windows obscured. Was Villisca the work of a serial killer traveling by train? The prime suspects. Frank Jones, Josiah Moore's former employer turned bitter rival. Their relationship had soured when Josiah opened his own implement company, creating direct competition. Rumors of an affair between Josiah and Frank's daughter-in-law added fuel to their animosity. Some believe Jones hired a hitman. William Blackie Mansfield, the alleged hitman. 2 years later, he was suspected of murdering his own family with an axe under similar circumstances. However, payroll records proved he was in Illinois during the Villisca murders. He successfully sued for false accusation, winning $2,225. Henry Lee Moore, no relation to the victims, this man was convicted of axe murdering his mother and grandmother in Missouri. Federal investigators believed he was responsible for 22 axe murders across the country, including Villisca. He served 36 years for his confirmed crimes but was never proven guilty of the Iowa murders. Andy Sawyer, a drifter seeking work who displayed suspicious behavior, including obsessive interest in the case and sleeping fully clothed while gripping his work axe. He claimed to have been in Villisca the night of the murders but fled town fearing suspicion. However, he was arrested for vagrancy in another town when the murders occurred. Reverend George Kelly, perhaps the most compelling suspect. A traveling preacher with known mental problems and a history of sexual deviance. He attended the Children's Day program and left town by train at 5:19 a.m., just hours before the bodies were discovered. His subsequent obsession with the case raised red flags among investigators. The most likely suspect. Reverend Kelly's behavior following the murders was particularly disturbing. He wrote letters to authorities seeking details, visited the crime scene, and even joined investigation teams. When Detective Tom O'Leary tested him by requesting murder details, Kelly provided far-fetched claims about witnessing the attack. Most damning was testimony that Kelly had discussed the murders on the morning train before they were officially discovered. In 1917, after intense interrogation, Kelly confessed, claiming God told him to commit the murders and quoting, "Suffer the children to come unto me." He immediately recanted. Kelly was tried twice. Both juries found him not guilty. At only 5 feet 2 inches and 119 pounds with obvious mental illness, many doubted he could have physically committed such brutal crimes. Suspicious bruising on his face during trial suggested coercive interrogation tactics. Despite years of investigation and multiple suspects, the Villisca Axe murders remain unsolved. The killer took their secret to the grave, leaving behind one of Iowa's most perplexing mysteries. The house still stands today, attracting thousands of visitors annually. Some claim it's haunted by the victims' spirits, still seeking justice after more than a century. The mystery isn't over, and you can be part of solving it. The Villisca Axe Murder House is now open for tours and overnight stays, where visitors can examine the evidence firsthand and draw their own conclusions. Many paranormal investigators and amateur detectives have made startling discoveries during their visits. Here's how you can get involved. Take a guided tour or book an overnight investigation. Walk through the same rooms, see the actual crime scene, and examine evidence that's never been fully explained. Books research the case, dive deeper into the archives. New evidence occasionally surfaces, and fresh eyes often spot details others have missed. The Montgomery County Sheriff's Office still welcomes tips and new theories. Ghosts share your experience. If you visit, document your experience. Share photos, theories, or any unusual encounters on social media using #VilliscaMystery. Your observation might be the key that finally solves this case. Think you know who did it? The case remains officially open. Contact the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office with credible theories backed by evidence. Share this mystery with others. The more people who know about the Villisca murders, the greater the chance someone will recognize a crucial detail or family story that could crack the case. Book your visit to the Villisca Axe Murder House at villisca.com or call 71282622756. Tours run year-round, and overnight stays are available for serious investigators. Will you be the one to finally solve Iowa's most haunting mystery? The victims have waited 110 years for justice. Maybe it's time their story reached you. Remember, 8 innocent lives were taken that night. They deserve answers. They deserve justice. They deserve to finally rest in peace.